The sudden decision by Farage yesterday, I was going to say yesterday evening, but of course he'd taken the decision earlier and he was keeping us all waiting all day. There will be an announcement. No, there will be an announcement. And he turns up at 4 o'clock and says, I'm going to stand in Clacton. And then there's a very interesting encounter with a journalist from The Guardian called Ben Quinn. And I'd like to go through that a little bit. So this will be the 8th time that Farage has stood for election in Westminster. If he gets it this time, that will be the first time he's won. So 7 failures, and this is now his 8th attempt. Maybe the British electorate will feel pity for this repeat offender. And the way he came to take the seat is interesting because it's all about control, it's all about influence, it's all about power, and it's all about Farage's importance. Now, I put out some posts yesterday. I have no doubt at all about Farage's significance, importance, and the role that Farage has played in the last 15 years in determining Brexit. And then once Brexit was voted for, taking a back seat and sort of giggling over his pint over the inadequacy of the Conservative Party and others to implement the Brexit that he had campaigned for. This is a man who is rich in rhetoric and poor in practice. He doesn't follow through. And so it's all about bragging. It's not about the actual mechanics and the reality. He is basically a beer-swilling show-off. And I think it's very interesting the way he replaces Tony Mack. And Tony Mack has been relegated to the background, but we'll come to him in a minute because not only has he been relegated to the background, but now stories are emerging which smear him to justify Farage's takeover. And I find that not only graceless, but tyrannous. And I'll go through the smear stories in a second. They may have credibility, but we should have heard about them before now. And if he was so bad, he should have been replaced before now. He is replaced because Farage wanted the seat. I want it, I'll take it. And that is not the mark of democracy. A Democrat, that's the mark of a tyrant. So for 6 months, Mack has been the candidate for Clacton-on-Sea. And Ben Quinn asked Farage, was it at that moment at 4 o'clock that the real candidate for Clacton found out? And Farage says, well, and then he yawned and he said, it sends me to sleep. It sends, I nodded off there. Yawn. It's not a yawn when this is an assault on democracy. He says, he knew it was a possibility 6 months ago. Well, to know something was a possibility, you know at the beginning of an election there's a possibility you're going to fail. It's not the same thing as being tyrannously replaced. So for Farage, democracy is a yawn. And he's not only taken over the Clacton seat from Mack, he's also taken over the leadership from Tice. Why? Because Farage wants to be centre and he wants access to those debates on television because it's all about me. Now, we know that me is significantly more interesting than them. Sunak and Starmer, who are almost indistinguishable in the rhetorical stakes, having both sat down and learnt and rehearsed what things they can and cannot say. This is all about finding out that the tyrant triumphs. And the seat is being very carefully chosen because of the Douglas Fellow in 2015. And Tice has stepped aside. Why? Because he's useless. Uppingham Boy made good with lots of money. That is his only value. And has he produced any councillors? No. Has he produced any MPs? No. Has anybody defected from the Conservatives to Reform? No. This is about putting Tice in his place, putting Farage where he thinks he belongs, and putting Mack out to graze. Now we find out all the dirt on Mack, on this Clacton candidate, the transparent anti-Semitism, because in his attempts to squash woke ideology, because Tony Mack is not a leader, Tony Mack is another twit. And he talks about discrimination against the people in Britain in favour of foreign arrivals or minorities. Conventional GB News rhetoric. As I say, as ever, GB News has a mission that it could do very well, but it's been taken down this rabbit hole of nastiness led by people who would much rather be centre stage on a podium in an election campaign rather than reporting it. So in December, Tony Mack talked about Muslims were backward, maladjusted and taught hate through Islam. A secular and moderate Muslim is an oxymoron. This is simply shocking, is it not? Get up, stand up. The only way to save Britain from a globalist agenda. And, you know, isn't that an anti-Semitic trope in itself? This man, you know, may be flirting with language which is inappropriate. He may not be the sort of person that we would want as a candidate for a general election. I use the word we in the broadest possible sense. But to hear all this dirt after Farage has decided, I'll take, it smacks of inappropriate tyranny, does it not? This is not democracy. If you think that Reform UK is a democratic party, look at how the leader behaves. I'll take. This is not a leader who takes responsibility. I take what I want. I remember when he was leader of UKIP, and I pointed out to him that there was racism in the ranks. Well, it's just a joke. Who cares? It's just a joke. This man doesn't take responsibility. He takes somebody else's position. This man doesn't take reform. This man takes charge. This man is a tyrant. I want to be centre stage. I want the best television programme. I want the best opportunities. I want to be in on the action. I want to be in the room, to quote Hamilton. It's this man. This man is very, very successful. What I say, I get. And don't dismiss him lightly. Don't dismiss this man. Over a pint of beer, you know, we're all chaps together. Let's swill the pint. We're all. I have the charisma of an ashtray. No, he doesn't. This man has the greatest charisma in British politics at the moment. There is nobody who can stand up to Farage in terms of name recognition, in terms of charisma, and in terms of rhetorical flourish. This man has been practicing for years. I don't think he's the brightest pin in the box, but he's practiced and he's practiced and he's practiced until he is well near perfect in his pitch. Take him off that pitch, make him talk about something else, and I think probably he would collapse. But he is very good at what he does. And he's an affable individual, as was Hitler, of course. Do not underestimate Farage's charisma. You think he's coming for Clacton on Sea? He's coming for you.